one of the best science fiction games of the 80s and 90s. The game had a nice mix of action, adventure, and sometimes even horror. Gah, look at that thing! The main character Samus was up there in popularity, equal to the likes of Mario and Link. Today, however, the Metroid series is... I'm not even super sure anymore. So of course, who else to pick up the slack? Then the fans. So, let's look at some fun Metroid hacks and fan games. First up, we have Metroid, Warts Invasion. Hit the rewind button all the way back to Super Mario Bros. 2. Remember that giant frog? The one you kill with vegetables? That's Wart! And he's returned to the Mario world, stealing Princess Peach and hoping to take over the kingdom. Warts Invasion is a Metroid ROM hack, where Samus is now adventuring into the world of Mario. The game plays exactly like Metroid 1 on the NES, meaning there's a whole lot of puzzles and mazes to be explored. The only big difference is that all of the aesthetics are replaced with Mario sprites. Obviously. So instead of fighting Zeelas and Screes, hey, I didn't even know they had names, your enemies are now limited to primarily Spinies and the occasional Boo. The backgrounds and platforms are all borrowed from Super Mario Bros. 3. The game is definitely fun for curiosity's sake. However, the huge lack of enemies and mindless exploring definitely takes a toll after a short while. I think a huge part of that has to do with the game taking place outside and during the daytime. It gives you an easier sense of space and distance, as opposed to being in a cave, where everything is naturally enclosed and claustrophobic. So when you find more open areas here, it's actually exciting, because you wouldn't expect to find these places in a cave, as opposed to being outside, where, yeah, everyone knows there's a lot of open space. But what do I know? I'm not a game designer. Do I look like Shigeru Miyamoto? The game's fun, but only for a little while. Next! Now here's an awesome game that's truly a testament to the fans' dedication towards the series. A 3D fan remake of Super Metroid. Yeah, that's crazy. The game is so fun, mainly because it's able to capture the true spirit of Metroid, really portraying that feeling of isolation and loneliness, thanks in part to the upgraded realistic aesthetic. Every area is dark and murky, making you feel really unsettled. The visuals are a sight to behold. Just keep in mind that this is a fan game, and has this level of polish is outstanding. Throughout the game, you'll also find rooms that are seemingly your safe haven. They look habitable, and there's no enemies in there. Great, right? Well, it should be. But even then, something seems off. You get that same feeling throughout the entire game. You know what? Maybe I'm just a big baby. Honestly though, I'm beyond impressed with the quality of this game. This truly feels like a title that Nintendo themselves would have made and released. The rest of the game is Metroid. Explore this huge labyrinth, solve puzzles, fight monsters, and try not to be afraid of the dark areas. It's alright, it's just a game, don't be afraid. Moving on to The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past, an epic tale of a young elf boy named Link, who... Wait a second, that's not Link, that's Samus. I guess to be more specific, that's Samus with a sword. Samus with a sword. Let me repeat that. Samus, the same girl with a bazooka cannon on her arm, wielding a sword. You know what? That's pretty cool. 10 out of 10. So maybe you're someone who finds the Metroid series to be a little too dark. Well, lucky for you, there's some alternatives. First up, we have Metroid H, a fan game that was started, but unfortunately was never fully completed. The game had a much lighter tone, having Samus, the badass female space bounty hunter, now become a cute chibi character. I like it! Chibis are always super cute, and Metroid H is no exception. The game has that 16-bit inspired retro art style. However, it's more of that Xbox 360 kind of retro. You know what I'm saying? The attacks are snappy and the movements are really quick and responsive. The game showed a ton of promise, but for one reason or another, the game was just never finished. Which kinda sucks. I mean, I love chibis. Look how cute they are. However, there is a game very similar to Metroid Plus H that was actually completed. And that game is Minitroid! Minitroid is a really addictive and charming Metroid fan game. It too goes for that retro pixel art style, and pulls it off really well. Again, it has more of that modern feeling of retro, which is totally fine. The labyrinth you're exploring in is of course massive, with multiple forks in the road. It wouldn't be a true Metroid game if this weren't the case. Luckily for us though, Samus is a lot quicker in her movements. Must be eating a lot of those protein bars and walking up and down those Stairmasters. The attacks are rapid and you can shoot in multiple directions. She jumps higher and runs a lot faster, making travel a lot easier and quicker to get through. The story of the game is nothing. There is no story. But that doesn't mean you can't create one. In my story, Samus was flying around doing space stuff, when all of a sudden, she came across an evil alien Atari console that used its lasers to zap her into this mystical pixel world. Please don't judge me. Now, one of the last people I'd ever expect to see in a Metroid game is Mario. But there he is, coming out of Samus' spaceship. And that's trespassing. The title of this hack is Super Metroid Mario. Technically, this is a Mario ROM hack, considering it's a traditional side-scroller. But let's be honest, when the heck am I ever going to talk about this game? Super Metroid Mario is a partial remake of Super Metroid on the SNES, borrowing all of the same background art, enemy sprites, and stage layout. As I mentioned before, the only difference is that the game plays primarily like Mario, meaning there's a few puzzle solving or labyrinth exploring to be had, but for the most part, you'll just be running around and jumping. Something else that I found to be really cool were the power-ups, because they've been completely redone to resemble the Metroid power-ups. For example, instead of the traditional Mario Fire Flower, we now have Samus's Missile. This is definitely a really fun hack. Its platforming is challenging at times, the puzzles and explorations are fun, and hearing Metroid music is always a huge plus. Now let's look at one last game to wrap this all up. Another Metroid 2 remake. No, seriously, that's the official name of this game. Dubbed Project AM2R for short, Metroid 2 The Return of Samus was a game that was released on the Game Boy in 1991. It was definitely a fun little game, but the fans sought out after more. So, instead of complaining about it, they went out and recreated the entirety of Metroid 2 into the amazing game you're looking at now, taking the fast-paced gameplay of Metroid Zero Mission and combining it with the atmosphere of Super Metroid. So much love and attention was put into this game, considering this was the only source material to go off of. The creators, of course, added more to this game, including mini-bosses, new areas, challenging boss battles, and an original high-quality soundtrack. Yeah, the music in this game is all remixed from the original soundtrack, giving it a more modern, high-production value sound. Project AM2R is one of the best examples of a fan game. They went above and beyond to create such an awesome experience, and I highly recommend you give this game a shot. Simply type in Project AM2R into Google, and it'll be the first result. Oh wait, Nintendo shut it down already. Well, still, go and play some of these fun hacks and fan games. And I will see you later.